What's good, everybody? It's your boy O'Shea Duke Jackson back at it again with another episode here on the YouTube channel. And of course, this is a collaboration. Make sure you brothers like, comment, and subscribe. And today, man, I'm on here with a brother by the name of No Excuse ENT World. Some of you guys in the travel community probably already know him. He's collaborated with, Black Male Travels. He has his own Facebook group. But let me go ahead and let him introduce himself and tell everybody what he's all about. Go ahead, family.
What's up? What's up, brothers and sisters? I go by No Excuse. Some people know me from the Facebook groups, which I use more often. So I'm kind of new to the YouTube space, but I do want to, grow my channel. I consider myself a storyteller and not a content creator, even though I do have a lot of content, but I do like to talk about my travels, and, a lot of people use me, for information. I'm a guy that has information. I've been to 13 cities in Colombia, 11 cities in Brazil, all over DR. I've been to Belize, Thailand, Philippines, Japan, and I'm about to go to Ethiopia and South Africa. So, I'll be putting out, up-to-date information on that while I'm out there. So that's kind of like the gist of me. And, hopefully you get to see, videos of me in the future.
All right. Now, I definitely appreciate you coming on here, man. I saw one of your videos, and we have been kind of corresponding for the last few months. And one of your videos I was watching before we started today was it was a video called "Can Brothers Ruin or Burn Colombia Like They Have DR?" Now, and obviously, the two of the biggest spots a lot of African American men are going is, I think it's like DR probably one, Colombia is second, Brazil is third, because Colombia and DR are so close to the States. But what do you mean by burn or ruin, like Colombia, like the DR? What do you mean by that?
I meant, burn up as far as affecting, pricing. A lot of it has to do with brothers, and a lot of it just has to do with, us being Americans as well. So I don't want to put it all on brothers, but a lot of things we do, we overspend. We tend to pay more than what's necessary. And a lot of that, over a repetitive amount of time, it does affect the culture, and it does affect the next man's experience. The initial wave of travel community was brothers, majority of brothers that weren't at that high value man status, meaning maybe 6-figure brother. It was more maybe like $40,000 to $50,000 a year brothers. And so on those budgets, you could go to places like DR and have a good time, But now, like some people call them weekend millionaires, come in, make it rain, and do all this other stuff, man.
Right.
And it just kind of affects the whole experience for the average brother.
It's funny, man. Our good brother, man, he don't really do a lot of content over here anymore, but you probably know him. His name is Marcus A. Brown. And I remember he had this really good live stream, man, where he called Black Men Traveling Abroad, Blowing Up the Spot, right? And he talked about that, the same thing that you did just now. It's just like a lot of times, black men show up to the DR, the women out there wasn't used to, they was like real nice, and, they had their little, morals and stuff like that. Then you get and I know, shout out to the New York niggas. I heard they be doing it the most. You know what I'm saying? The New York niggas come out there, the throwback song, new Air Jordan retros in the club, but like thousands of pesos throwing it up. And then it raised up the price, not only for, what women expect, but I also heard like just in everyday, it encourages like the local communities or people that's in business to try to like raise the prices and price gouge even more, right?
Yeah.
Has it happened to you? Have you experienced that? And
Yeah,
give us an example of how it happened.
I mean, I see it at the beach. I mean, I've been put on game as far as they have they have a gringo menu, and I'm using DR for example, and a Dominican menu. And you go to the beach and get like a fish and two sides. They trying to hit you over the head for 30 or $40, but then some Dominicans told me, they could get the same meal for, for, less than, 10 bucks. So, taxi drivers do it. They expect, they think you got it, which we do. They doubling up prices. Um, Even in the real estate game. I mean, people going through their retirement spending $100,000 in DR to buy a villa. Like, come on, you know, you don't spend what you spend in the US in that type of country, man, and people just don't get it. Even having a good time with a woman on a date, you're paying the same that you would in the US. Not that those women deserve less or anything like that, but you want to be on par with the country's norms. That's the whole point of going to a third world cheap country. People are going to cheap countries intentionally. So if you're going to
Mm-hmm.
those intentionally, don't defeat your purpose of going. You know?
Let me ask you this, man, because I don't know. I know you've been to Colombia a lot of times. Have you been to Brazil before?
Yep, I've been to Brazil. I think
Okay.
I think I'm one of the few brothers that probably been to 11 cities in Brazil. Um,
Wow. Okay. Let me ask you this. So, in comparisons to, because I know we're gonna get into Colombia in a minute, but I heard that Brazil also was like one way before, and then I hear guys talking about it now, and guys are complaining. What were some of the things that you were seeing in Brazil as far as brothers ruining it up and simping and all that other kind of stuff? What were you seeing out there in Brazil?
well, Brazil, I miss the wave of they call it I missed the wave of like the pre 2010 wave where things were a little bit more touristy in Rio. Now from a tourist aspect, Rio isn't, and when I say tourist, I mean like the Copacabana area. A lot of the stuff that was going on there has been kind of phased out. So it's been a little bit more commercialized in that aspect. Guys typically, um, from my experience with guys in Brazil, guys typically don't go there to like date women or start relationships. Even though some guys do, it's not as common as like DR and Colombia, you know. So when it comes to Brazil, um, guys still kind of do the same thing, but it's not the same. It's not the same. So a lot of guys just kind of pitch living there and embracing the culture instead of some of the things that went on back 10, 20 years ago.
Now, let me kind of go back to this because you've been to the DR and to Colombia, and then before we kind of go into, um, a lot of guys are settling into Medellin now. It's really really popular. Medellin has a really good infrastructure. The city is becoming world class. What are some of the differences that you've seen? You know what I mean, between let's say you're like the most popular city for black men in DR, and then the most popular city for black men in Colombia. I don't know which ones those are, but if you could tell me what are the differences between Colombia and DR in general, and for those cities, before we kind of go into the next question.
All right, cool. So I would say Sosua is the most popular destination for men in DR, and Medellin for Colombia. Um, I mean, one obvious difference is the size, right? Medellin has a metropolitan area about 3 million people. Sosua is a small tourist beach town. Population probably less than 50,000. So a lot of people, families, women you see come from other parts of DR to go to Sosua. Um, The weather is different. Medellin is a cooler city. It's about 75 degrees pretty much all day. So people love the consistent weather 365 days of the year. And so Sewell and DR is pretty pleasant too on the weather. Economy wise, Medellin, has a decent economy. They have, probably the best Airbnbs I've seen out of all the three countries we talk about frequently. Um, and the women are, in my opinion, and a lot of others, Colombian women are, more, I think they're more beautiful than Dominicans and Brazil, and on average. So um, Medellin, in Medellin, women are typically more have more lighter skin, straight, straight black hair, um, and more in shape. You won't see a lot of overweight women in Colombia in general. DR, you're gonna get that more caramel, peanut butter skin tone, which brothers like. Um, but you're gonna get the body types of what you would see in the U.S. You have some women with decent shapes, and you're gonna have some women with some flaws. But brothers like this. Brothers like the skin tone. Brothers that like DR, they like black women. They just like a lighter shade of black women, but not too light. And then you got brothers that want that high yellow, typical Latina look, which they go to Colombia for.
Okay, now let me ask you this: as far as how the two, in your opinion, is there a difference between the mindset of how Dominican women treat African American men, or is there a mindset of how your interactions with Colombian women versus your interactions with Dominican women? Is there a difference?
Oh yeah, it's a big difference. I mean, myself and others included, I've probably been Dominican women have played more games than Colombian women. Colombian women don't really play games. I mean, there's women that's out to, see what they could get from you from Colombia and DR, but in DR you get way more begging from men and women. You know, Colombian men have a little bit more pride. You might ask if I could buy. I could ask the average Colombian. Can I buy you something? And they like, no, I'm good. You know what I mean? And so DR has a begging culture. I'm gonna say that. As far as how women treated me, I've had girlfriends in DR, had girlfriends in Colombia. I have a fiance now in Colombia, but um, the women in when you dating a Dominican, she's looking at you as in exchange for a relationship, in exchange for me being in a house, in exchange for me being able to answer your calls and texts. Every time you call me, I expect for you to be able to send me money. And that's in a long distance dynamic. Now, if you live there, the game kind of changes. And in Colombia, you can be in a long distance relationship without those expectations. You know, um, Women cheat in both countries. There's loyal women in both countries as well, but you do have a begging culture in DR, and chicks do play more games in DR from my experience.
Let me ask you this, because a lot of black men are going to Colombia now, and Brazil with the real is getting, or the reais, as Charles Taylor used to say, is getting cheaper, right? So Brazil is actually becoming a little more affordable. Why are a lot of guys picking Colombia over the DR in Brazil right now?
Well, abundance. And I'm trying to keep this a little PC, but experiences with women are more abundant and more cheaper, and with more quality. You know what I mean? You get a fine woman, you have to come less out your pockets, and you have way more options. You know, and that's throughout Colombia. You're not just limited to Meta. You're not just limited to one city. You got you got Cartagena, some brothers like Cali, some brothers like Bogota, which is I think like the New York of Colombia, and then there's all these other cities spread around. When you go to Rio, last time I went to Rio, like earlier this year, I mean, it's just not. It's nothing is in your face. You know what I mean? Colombia has a lot of in your face, especially in Medellin and Cartagena. So Sua is in your face too, but it's small. You know what I mean? So it's a lot. It's a lot of reasons, man. But price and quality and abundance is why guys are choosing Colombia.
Let me ask you this, because since the price is good, and the infrastructure in Medellin is probably better than any city in the DR for sure. And Medellin is definitely cheaper than Rio on
And
average.
Spanish too. I forgot to mention Spanish. Sorry about that.
Spanish, right? And then you probably have more people that speak English in Colombia than probably in Brazil. So then I want to ask you this, man. Our guys, and you've been to Colombia, and you like you about that fiance. Do you think that black men are out there simping so hard that they are blowing up the spot, or that they're driving the price up? Have you seen that? There are a lot of guys I didn't know. Shout out to Black Males Travels. I'm seeing guys come up with a few restaurants out there. Guys come up with some really good businesses. It seems like it's you have a upper middle class kind of African American guy more or less relocating to Colombia than the other places. So what have you seen from the simping going on out there, man? And I know you have a travel group. So what's going on out there with that?
Oh man, I mean, I've seen simping and I've seen just people just getting caught slipping. So people get caught slipping. So Colombian has a Colombian peso and Dominican have a Dominican peso, and guys that go between DR and Colombia, sometimes they confuse. Sometimes they could get confused. So, and Dominican, people abbreviate their currency. So how we'll say 100,000, we'll say we could say 1K or something like that. So in Colombia, let's just say something is 100,000 pesos, but they say 100 mil, which mil means 1,000 in Spanish. So somebody could be like, okay, this is 100. A Colombian could say this is 100 or CN. I've seen people pay $100 thinking they're referring to dollars and not pesos.
Uh-oh.
So that's just by accident, right? Now, simping, I've seen guys simp because keep in mind these women are one of the most beautiful women in the world, and then you got Venezuelans that live in Colombia too, which are just as beautiful. So guys have no problem, giving women what they ask for. Over spend, I got a homie. All he do is posting his statuses is Chanel bags, Gucci bags, stuff he buying women, and he said that a woman that don't got no kids and got her body in shape and don't give no lip back deserve this. So I said, wow. So brothers, there are brothers, man, that's doing a lot, man, but they feel like it's a better exchange for what they could get, in the U.S.
So wait a minute. So the brother's saying that because she don't have no kids, she deserves Chanel back. And it's crazy because what you mentioned was usually black men are going to the DR or to Colombia, to Brazil, to do things that is cheaper because on the living standard. Is it necessary? I mean, like, do you feel like it's necessary for guys to have to do that to gain a woman's attention? And have you ever had a woman ask you that before? Or?
Nah, I never had a woman ask, man. Some dudes just offer. Some guys get over there and have a woman they never imagined to have, they fantasy woman, and they like the attention they get. They like the videos and pictures they get to take. So it's like, I'm feeling so good and so happy here. I don't know if you've seen a video where the guy was in like Colombia. He was throwing money in the streets, and people was kind of, we was giving a backlash about that. But people be feeling so good, and I could understand the feeling of like, man, I've never thought this feeling. I never had this as a black man in America. I never had this feeling of happiness, and they just get somewhere and they just feel just generous. I'm not. I mean, I'm not that type of dude. Like I stick to my morals and I stick to my values when it comes to spending money. But some guys just so happy, man. They just like, you know, here you go. But at least in Colombia, there's so many Colombians that outweighs the gringo presence that it doesn't really affect, the market like that.
Now let me ask you a question, man, because I did do I do got an interview coming with Axe Nathaniel, right? I don't know if you know who he is, and you'll be seeing that pretty soon. Guys like Minister Jap, I know I'm be a little bit messy, but I've heard it from both ends. Like the guys who are traveling, they don't need dating coaches or game, right? I talked about that with Black Men's Travels, and you have guys like Axe Nathaniel and Minister Jap who are saying that hey man, there's plenty of attractive Latin women, the Colombian women in America, like. Why you can't get those women, like why are black men getting into relationships, you know what I mean? Just theoretically, not that they, like trying to find out what you're doing every day, but, like there's plenty of women in New York City and stuff like that. Is that you just don't have enough game to, get the women in America, so you running overseas and stuff like that. Like when you hear guys come for the travel brothers like that, like what is your response to that? Because it's a controversial talking point over here in the manosphere.
Yeah, can I? Let me heat their ass up before they.
Go ahead, do your thing.
So I used to live in Colombia. I live on the East Coast. I used to live in New York, and I live on the East Coast. What they don't understand is one, these women in the U.S. They're exotic to us, but when I go to the home country, the women are way better. So when I come back to the U.S., like they not even like when I thought they was 9s and 10s, now they just like 6 and 7s. Because I'm like, they way better in your country. Like they could live off that image because a lot of dudes don't know their home country, so they could so these women here, they could kind of play that exotic role. But once you've been to their country, and even when they know you've been to their country, like they head go down because they know that what it really is. I mean, as far as attainability, I mean, brothers want, I ain't gonna say brothers, some brothers want to be married and have children. Regardless of what race it is in the United States, there's a weaponization of child support. And then also when it comes to marriage, the high divorce rate. So guys like myself, that want to be married and, I want to have another child, I'm not doing it in the U.S. I don't care if I could get the same type of chick in the U.S. because in the U.S. women have the upper hand, in the family court system. And, some guys say, some guys have arguments like, well, if you're a man, if you got your money together, like you could have the upper hand. The women had the upper hand in the U.S. That's why more women want to move to the U.S. and more men want to move to more patriarchal countries. So you got that aspect. As far as game, I use Dominicans for example, right? So Dominicans in New York, even Cubans in Miami, most of those Latin people that came from their country are the lighter skinned version. Most of the Dominican Republic is dark. Most of Cuba is dark. You know what I mean? So you got these people that think they're white, and they stick to their own race more in the U.S. And you could break that to some extent, but it's just, why make it harder for yourself? Why make it harder for you? It don't make me less than a man to say I have it easier or I have more, women. I'm able to get more women somewhere else. I could get more women in Texas than I can in New York. That doesn't make me less than a man or weak or anything like that. So they had these arguments, but a lot of them haven't even traveled or even got stamps to even be able to elaborate on some of these things. So that's my take.
like, do you think a lot of those guys, man, that be hating on y'all, man, like, do you think it's because they mad that they can't travel? I mean, you about to go to Ethiopia and South Africa. I mean, I ain't trying to be messing with them. Do you think they just jealous of y'all that y'all able to move and they they're dealing with Corona, you know what I'm saying, in the States, and they can't get no chicks, they can't do what y'all do, so they hating on y'all? Is that what you think it is? Or deep policing and all that?
I mean, a lot of it is because I haven't seen no receipts of these guys, and and there's a lot of these guys I respect, like AMS, I mean? I respect what he does for brothers in the United States. But let us in the travel community work on guys that want to travel abroad. We have two different philosophies that work. What he does works in the US, and what we do works for travelers. You know what I mean? So guys have to stay in their own lane. As black men, wherever you want to date women at, we should want black men to be happy. When I see men, when you're in the US, you don't see black men smiling. You don't see niggas cheesing all the time. But you go on them airplanes and you see them in them other countries, brothers like, what's up? I mean, it's just a whole different feel, man. So brothers should be happy about that. That's from a mental health standpoint, that's good. It's a healing process traveling out the country too, man. Like brothers start to know what it feels to like be a man. You know what I mean? You get your swag back. You know what I mean? Being able to travel like that. And it shouldn't matter where you get it. You know what I mean? Like the U.S. It's men in the U.S. that figured out the U.S. It's men that figured out other countries. Let us conquer the world. We all can't conquer the U.S. and that's okay.
Okay, let me ask you this, man. For the guys that are going to Colombia, I know this also happens, and you in the Facebook groups, I'm just gonna talk about it. I do know that you talk about blowing up the spot. I know, like in travel groups, like brothers opposed to chicks, something like that happens, and then dude will come inbox you or something like that. I know I've seen it happen in Black Men's Travels group. You know what I mean? You'll get dudes competing for the same type of chicks and stuff like that. Like, how often does that happen? And kind of talk about that a little bit, because it is a reality that a lot of times brothers end up messing with the same women out there. Does that happen often, or is it just sometimes?
No, it happens often, man, and I think it's because guys, we use the same tools to meet women, whether it's Tinder or Latin American Cupid, Dominican Cupid, Brazilian Cupid, Colombian Cupid. They got these Cupids, sites that cover different countries. And yeah, if you're on Tinder, if we both on Tinder, we might go swipe for the same chick. And if she just looking, to have a good time when a foreigner visits our country, we both might end up knowing the same chick. You know what I mean? But some guys get in their feelings. I see it a lot. Some guys stop posting pictures with women they, met because, another guy know him and he'll message the girl and say, oh, somebody posted your picture. Like, I mean, it's a lot of simp stuff when it comes to travel like that. I don't really care, but a lot of guys be upset about that. And then a lot of guys feelings be hurt because a lot, a dude will post saying like, I met this girl, she seemed good. And then a dude will follow behind, post a picture of her, doing, sitting in his lap or, kissing on him and stuff like that, man. Like, it get crazy, man.
Does that happen a lot in Colombia also, or is it more or less like is it just like a DR or a Brazilian thing, or is it just happening in Latin America?
I mean, I've seen it the most in DR, because DR is smaller and a lot of guys, they fall for the games. Like Dominican women are very seductive with their words. Like, they are very good. They are very good. They all say I'm looking for a serious relationship, and a lot of times, for the first time brothers are hearing, they use, they call each other amor and baby. So they hear that all the time. And it's like, wow, this woman is different. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But, after time, like you hear from so many different women, you just know that's just the way they talk, man. But And, especially Sosua, man. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of women. There's a small amount of women that kind of, be in those areas, and guys just end up knowing the same women, and even on the websites, even girls that's not out there like that. If you and that's something I be want to tell guys when I talk about dating. Like, if you meet a woman on a website, she has access to other men. She got other men in her phone, and it is a high likelihood that somebody that may know her. You know what I mean? So when I was looking for women, like, I try to meet women in person and things like that. But yeah, it's in DR is more common because guys frequent it more.
Let me ask you this: what? Because you about to get married, right? And so a lot of people will say, well, how did you? Or ask, how did you decipher, like, the woman that you have, like, she's worth getting married to, versus the other woman that you're dealing with, and how did you go about meeting her? Because I mean, if you're gonna marry her, she must be a good woman, and you're kind of experienced. How did you go about doing that?
Wow. Well, she was probably like my fifth relationship out of Colombia. I met some chicks with some good qualities. But the chicks I would say most of the chicks that I dated in Colombia had kids. And then what I started to realize was that, if I wanted to help out my girlfriend, what I mean, now it's a burden on me to help out if she in a tight situation with a kid. And I experienced that in the US. And I didn't want that burden no more. So, the woman I'm with now, she doesn't have any kids. She's young. She's actually been to the US on an educational visa. And I'll say, and she was a virgin. She was a virgin. The full disclosure, she was a virgin. And so, so those qualities in itself, made me, want to, take her serious. And she's independent. She has her own, they have her own family restaurant, so she ain't got to work. And she don't have to work. She's available when I come to the country. And we've been knowing each other. We was friends for about 2 years before we started dating. So that's why I chose her.
What advice would you give, black men that are interested in, what are the traits they should look for in getting a relationship with a Colombian woman?
And a Colombian woman, first you have to decide if you want to deal with a woman with kids or without kids. There's a lot of women. There's more women with kids than without kids in Colombia. So you have to decide if you're a selfish person or unselfish person. I'm a selfish person, so I can't do kids. But if you're an unselfish person, then if kids no problem, then obviously you have more options. I would say you need to decide where you want to live. Do you want to live in another country? You want to live in the U.S.? Colombian women want some form of stability at some point. They are very patient. They're more patient than, I would say, Dominicans, than even Brazilians. Brazilians, and I'll talk about that later. Brazilians don't even want to do long distance relationships. Colombian Dominicans are more open to long distance relationships with foreigners. So you have to decide where you want to live. And if you want to stay in the U.S., if you feel like you can't leave the U.S. for financial reasons, then you might have to be one of those brothers that have to consider marrying a woman and bringing her to the U.S. I'm against that. So I'm going to be living in Colombia. And I would just say, if you meet a woman I feel like if you meet a woman without kids, lock her down. What I mean? Keep her, because I feel like that's a rarity. If you meet a woman with kids, you're gonna kind of want to know a little bit. You're gonna kind of want to dig into more of her past, know why she's a single mother, and if she's taking care of herself like that. A lot of them have very strong family values, so that's why I say if you find a woman with no kids, like hop on that. You know what I mean? Because it's rare, and it shows something about her character.
Well, let me ask you this, man. For those people who are looking to come over to your channel and subscribe after this interview, what kind of information will they see on the No Excuses Entertainment channel?
The type of information you will get information on, countries that I visited, cities that I visited. I like to talk about dating and relationships. I like to talk about how to move, how to move in these countries. I'm an advocate for people wanting to buy, land or real estate in other countries, because places I visited, it's intentional. It's intentional because I'm interested to see if it's somewhere I can live. So I have a lot of information on that. And then also, I have a Colombian visa, and I've done visa research on other countries too. So people want to know about the type of visas they could obtain if they want to, live in a country or be in a country longer than what the tourist visa allow. That's the type of information that I like to talk about as well.
All right, guys. So go to the first comment pin at the top. Check out No Excuse Entertainment World. Subscribe, hit the bell, and I appreciate you, brothers. And as you know, the buffoonery remains at an all-time high. I'm out.